Coaster. Welcome to COASTER-net Uncut.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of COASTER-net Uncut. I am, of course, Andrew Barchak from Chicago, Illinois, joined here once again by my great compatriot, yes, the ever-popular Danny Miller, hailing from Rochester, New York. Danny, why don't you give us a big hello?
Hello! Yes, compatriot, not to be confused with the roller coaster at Worlds of Fun. That is compatriot sans the com, I guess.
Yeah.
But so we're joined by a special guest here today, the winner of our bracket challenge that we did a while back. We haven't mentioned that in the last couple weeks because we've kind of been waiting to bring her in on this topic that we're talking about today. But it's our friend Jenny Fiedler from Ohio, and she's going to help us talk about Cedar Point opening weekend and all kinds of fun stuff like that tonight.
You can say hi, Jenny.
Hi. Bloody Force is the best steel coaster in the world.
Oh, well,
boy, here we go.
Voted on by some that way on the Golden Tickets, namely.
But not enough.
Well, also the Golden Loop Awards also named it the best steel roller coaster in the world.
Oh, yeah,
this year.
that's right.
Yeah, so, or did it?
See?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it did.
Right.
Yeah, so there you go. So tonight, as you may have surmised, we are indeed talking about Cedar Point once again, but now we have a very specific focus that this past weekend was Cedar Point's opening day. So we're going to talk all about opening day. We're going to talk all about the changes that happened to Cedar Point, and we're going to talk about the newest roller coaster, I guess you could say, at Cedar Point. The one, the only, the transformative Rougarou. Oh, yes. We're going to talk about Rougarou. Oh, yeah. Do a little Wolfpack howl, I guess. So, let's start with talking about Rougarou, I think, because that's one of the main things that happened at Cedar Point this year is that we know last year we had Mantis, we had the much derided stand-up roller coaster Mantis, and Cedar Point made the decision at some point last season that they were going to take the stand-up roller coaster Mantis and transform it into a sit-down floorless roller coaster and now call it Rougarou. We've already seen some of this transformation happen over Halloween weekends last year where they started painting it. So you've probably already seen the color scheme in person if you went to that event. But then at Winter Chill Out, they unveiled the new trains for Rougarou. But now we finally got to be a first rider on Rougarou. So Jenny, I know you were there this weekend. What were your thoughts on the new ride, in quotation marks?
Well, I really wasn't very impressed with Rougarou, to be honest. I was expecting way more theming, first of all, like Banshee theming. You know how they have all the fog and everything and the lights? It was nothing like that, and I was really disappointed with that. And then my first ride, I felt like it was a lot slower than Mantis when I rode it. And the headbanging with the restraints was still there, and I mean, it was a little bit smoother, I will say that, and it was nice being able to sit down, but all in all, I really didn't think it was that impressive.
Well, I kind of have a similar take on it. You know, Danny, you and I talked about this way back when Rougarou was first announced.
We saw this coming back in the fall when we talked about it. We had a specific show where we talked about Rougarou, and you and I seem to be the only people who are like, okay, well, what are they really trying to do here? And I think the big thing that you and I came up with was the biggest complaint with Mantis was, you know, okay, yeah, you're having a bicycle seat being rammed into your crotch in various parts of the ride. But the biggest problem for you and I wasn't so much that, it was the headbanging.
Yeah.
And you and I said that you take the bicycle seat away, you sit the rider down, okay, you take away the uncomfortable feeling of the bicycle seat that you're straddling, but that doesn't eliminate the headbang. You still have a shoulder harness next to your ears, so unless something is done with the track, you're probably still going to have a little bit of that older feel. You know how some of the B&Ms, once they get to that 20-year mark, that 15, 20-year mark, they start to rattle a little bit, and especially the floorless coasters with how light the trains are. We've had that discussion before, too. And from what I'm gathering, I'm going out to Cedar Point, hopefully the first weekend in June for Coaster Mania, so I'll get my ride on Rougarou then. But generally speaking, I'm hearing a lot of what I'm hearing from you guys, in that it's not all that different from Mantis, aside from the fact that you're now sitting down, and it's called a different ride. It's painted differently, right?
Yeah. Now, the one thing I was saying is that it's still Mantis with one noticeable pain point missing. And like you said, it's the bicycle seat. And to be honest with you, when I rode Mantis, the bicycle seat to me was not the worst part of the ride. It was actually, out of all the pain points on the ride, it was the one I could pretty much deal with the most. The headbanging was the worst on Mantis. That I just did not like the headbanging. That you get that on those traditional B&M restraints that are so thick, they're so hard, they're right up against your head for the most part. It's hard to avoid them. And then you have, the positive G-force, which actually what surprised me about Rougarou is many of you may remember on Mantis that when you start moving into the second half of the ride, a little bit before the brake run and then definitely after, you have this tremendous positive G-force pulling on your legs, that it would cause your legs almost to want to buckle at some point, especially if you were towards the back of the train, like in row 7 or row 8. What surprised me is that even with your legs dangling, I still got a little bit of that, which, I don't know if that's good or bad for people that like positive Gs. I don't know. But for the most part, this is still the same ride, in my opinion. And I know we talked about this too, Danny, that a lot of people were trying to compare this to other floorless roller coasters out there, that they were expecting a Dominator-like experience or a Superman Krypton coaster-like experience. Guess what? It's just not going to happen. And I think we called that right at the beginning, that type of ride experience is not going to be had, because that's not what the track layout is meant to do. You look at Dominator, it's got those corkscrews that are really, really big, and they corkscrew in on itself. So it's not like it's a full corkscrew. This Mantis thing, and Rougarou to some extent as well, it's so tight that they used such a small plot of land back in 1996 to fit this all in there. So it just wraps around itself, and it's all very tight, and it leads to basically what we have now. It leads to the headbanging. But I don't want to completely be negative about this coaster. What it is going to do is, and I can tell you this, the whole weekend it had a line on it. I can't tell you the last time I saw Mantis with a line on it, during a pretty light day. That usually on heavy days every ride's going to have a line on it, at least some line. But Rougarou, it's going to appeal to more people just because it can sit down, just because it's going to eat people more, that it's easier to load the train, checking seatbelts, you move on. That whole stand-up concept, with people not following the rules and having to be unlocked and then locked and then relocked and then unlocked again, it was just a headache and a half. Every time you were in that station, you were stacking at least 2 trains. You were stacking at least 2 trains. They had to actually take the third train off because of the inability to dispatch trains. So now we have 3 trains back. We're going to be able to dispatch these trains probably pretty quickly and fairly regularly.
Yeah,
it's going to have a line of it. It's going to be a better ride overall. People are going to like it more. And to be honest, I think the first drop looks kind of cool at night. I was, like Jenny, you said, I was expecting a little bit more theming, especially on the back half, with maybe some flashing lights, some strobes or something.
Well,
Well,
And it seems like it would be pretty easy to do, right? Because, like you said, it is in such a small, compact area. It's not like Banshee where it's big and spread out, and they have a big area to light up with, LED lights and with fog machines. You're talking about a pretty compact space. I can't think you would need a whole lot of lighting and a whole lot of fog equipment to actually get that area to be really misty. Like I know at times you see fog over the lagoon where Iron Dragon's finale is. Like
Yeah.
it's in a small space. It couldn't cost that much to actually do that, and it sounds like there really wasn't a whole lot of that.
Well, the fog that they did do was along the first drop into the first loop. So
Yeah,
they have fog
when I was there.
but I don't know if they just had it turned down low, but I remember being at Banshee, and Banshee would just fog up the entire area, and like it would be like you were at Haunt, and here with this. Like here,
and the lights were amazing.
The lights were cool, and here it's like the
Media
fog.
Day at Banshee, you couldn't even see the sign.
Seriously,
at night you couldn't even see the sign because the fog was so thick there.
It was that dense.
You couldn't even see it.
Now the fog, I think, was a little thicker at night. Maybe they just had it turned down. I don't know. It's not real fog either. It's water mist. So I don't know if that's playing a role, that they don't want to rust out the ride because it is right along the track. So if they constantly have the water on it, it might lead to some issues down the road with it. I don't know. But to your point, Danny, I think one of the reasons why they did not light up the back half of the ride was because the queue line was so well lit that they had some LED colored lights lighting up the queue line. And basically all of that light just spilled over into the back. So the whole ride is pretty much lit up. It's never like you're actually in the dark. This isn't like a Banshee going through the forest or going over the swamp or something. It's pretty lit up throughout the entire ride. You can pretty much see where you're going. And to be honest with you, isn't that kind of the point of the floorless train, that you're supposed to be able to look down and be able to see stuff? If it's really all in the dark, you might as well not put a floorless train on it at that point. So I don't know. It just seems that everything, I think it was done as a way to make the ride more popular. And I think they try to add little touches here and there to make it a little nicer. The first drop, I think, looks pretty cool at night, which is really probably all that anybody really cares about in the end, right? Because you really can't see the back half of the ride.
That's all you're really standing next to. I mean, you can't really walk in and around.
Oh, God, yeah.
Well, I mean, you can't really walk in and around the back half. So I guess as someone who hasn't ridden it yet and is going to ride it in a couple weeks, from your two perspective, and maybe Jenny, you can answer these first. I have two questions. Number one, was it worth the investment of them to do all this marketing hype and make the conversion? Number one, do you think it was worth the time, the money, and the effort to, the station and the repainting and the new trains and everything? And second, Mantis or Rougarou, which one would you rather have back? Because we know, would you rather have Mantis back or would you rather have Rougarou? Because we know that it's lost at least a little bit of its uniqueness, losing the stand-up aspect. So first question, was it worth the effort, the time, and money that they spent for the conversion? And two, between the two, which do you prefer, if you prefer either?
Well, as far as them spending all the money and time with the conversion, I think what they were just trying to make it a more popular ride at the park, and that's pretty much what is going to happen. More people will ride it. But from my perspective, I actually liked Mantis better. So I don't know. I'm not really sure what other people think. A lot of people said they like Rougarou, but I think Mantis was so unique being a stand-up, and it was the only stand-up that I actually liked, because I've ridden a few other ones, and Mantis was the only one I actually liked. I did the last stand on Mantis that one night, and I don't know, I just have always liked Mantis, so I haven't had a problem with it, and
I've never hated Mantis either.
Yeah.
Well,
I was a little disappointed with Rougarou, though.
I can say that my one complaint about Mantis was the harnesses were getting a little tight on me, and it became uncomfortable to have to lock them in all the time, and the seatbelts were getting kind of short. And,
I think they cut the belts for sure, definitely.
Yeah, and it's just like I felt like at some point, like, I try and lose weight every year to get on the rides, and at some point I didn't want to have to deal with Mantis and have to go up there and, have someone like jam in a seatbelt onto me. So from that perspective, I think these new seats are much more comfortable. I think I like that more. I'll say this, I like the color scheme a lot more on Mantis. I thought the blue and the yellow track was just so striking. And now the orange, like, I really like the dark green supports. I think they look amazing. I don't like the orange track. I thought they should have went with the neon green. And I wonder that we saw some
looked a lot better.
Like we saw some exactly. Yeah, you can tell us, Jenny.
In July, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
In July, I believe, when I went to the coaster camp out at Cedar Point, and I rode the train just to go see that piece of track that was painted green, and I took pictures of it and stuff, and I thought that that's what it was going to be painted, and that actually would have looked a lot better than the orange.
Yeah, and
especially with the dark teal on the supports, I think it would have complemented it. But and you don't have a green ride in that part of the park. You have Raptor up front.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the thing, Raptor, like, that was my only concern, was that if you were to paint that neon green and then dark green, you're basically doing different shades of Raptor. And at that point, you're never going to top Raptor, so you're already behind the 8-ball.
We would have been happy with it, though.
We could call it Little Raptor.
Well, hold on a second. If I can throw out one of my ideas here. Now, one of my ideas, what if now, Andy, you and I talked about this offline, I think, the last time we did a show. What if the plan was to paint Rougarou green, and then Valraven is actually a trademark for a re-theme of Banshee, and they were going to paint it purple and put Banshee trains on it.
Oh, no, for
then
Raptor.
That would have been the only green coaster. For Raptor.
Yeah, they could have. Yeah, I would say that's a terrible idea, but anyway,
Well, but if it gets the Banshee trains, it becomes a better ride. So I don't even know.
I don't know about that.
It sounds to me like the general consensus with Rougarou here is mixed reviews, obviously, from what we're hearing here, but it sounds like you two weren't particularly fans of it, but it sounds like other people were, so maybe it's more of a kind of wait and see, but I think lukewarm at best might be the best way to describe it right now.
And I can tell you, I rode Rougarou probably about 6 to 7 times this weekend, through the first rider auction, through the various seats and just waiting in line. And I can tell you that each time I got off, I heard a person talking about the ride, and it was right down the middle. It really was. Half the people said, wow, that was a really good ride. Half the people said, wow, that was real painful. So I think this ride is going to come down to, because even my close friends, that were out there for opening weekend, even they said, the headbanging for them wasn't that bad at all. So I wonder if it's just specific body types that lend themselves more to headbanging. I don't know if taller, shorter. I don't know what that math formula is, but maybe some people are going to have.
I'm about both of your guys' height, so that's not voting too well for me at this point.
so that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, some people said they were able to lean their head forward and really avoid it. But I don't think my neck's not long enough, though, because even when I lean my head forward, I still get the head boxing. So that doesn't work for me. So
It also depends on where you sit, because
Yeah.
I sat in the back for my first ride. Well, actually, the 7th row for my first ride, and I thought it was rougher in the back than in the front.
Oh,
I
for
actually
sure.
rode the front twice, I think. Yeah, I rode the front twice, and it's a lot better in the front. So it
Well,
also depends on where you sit.
I had a different experience because I sat in the back a few times and it was real rough. I sat in the very first row and I thought it was real rough, but then I sat in row 4 and that was my best ride out of the bunch was row 4, right in the middle of the train.
Right
It
down
was
the middle. Is
the middle of the train,
Interesting.
middle seats, not the outside seats. So middle train, middle seats, and
Okay,
I had my best
yeah.
ride there. So I don't know if the outside of the train leads to more rattling too, as opposed to the inside.
it
that-
could.
I
It
agree,
could.
though, because I sat in the middle seat in the front, and it wasn't too bad.
So maybe it's the
I'm
middle
thinking
seat.
you're right about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sit
it
in the
must be the
middle.
middle.
And that's been the case. That was the case on Banshee too, because I always like riding on the edge, and
Yeah.
on media day, I was always riding on the end, and we kept sitting in the back because that's where our seat of choice was. And my aunt was always in the middle, and she wanted to switch for one ride, and she right away noticed that it was more violent on the edge, even on her ride, brand new and as smooth as Banshee. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's not an uncommon thought right there. So I don't know. Maybe we'll have to see. Maybe we'll have to revisit this discussion in a few weeks once I actually get a chance to ride it and we get more people riding it and see what the consensus is. Right now, it's kinda hard to tell, I think.
One more point I want to make on this is that, after I wrote it, I didn't really think about it too much. And people were asking me questions about, how many coasters I'd been on. And never once did it cross my mind to add one to my tally. The whole weekend I'm saying 301. And then on Sunday I realized, well, wait a minute. We had that huge discussion. Are you going to count this as a new credit? In my head, I didn't even count it unconsciously. So in fact,
it wasn't different enough.
In fact, I am not counting this as a new credit. I am leaving it as a single credit. The trains are not enough for me to say it's a new credit. And I was already leaning that way to begin with. We had the big discussion and we kind of said, well, we'll wait and see. I was already, in the months after following that, I was kind of like, well, I don't know. I was leaning towards no. And then after writing it, I said, no, it's the same. It's one change. It's like closing your eyes.
You've seen and you're not going to count it.
Yeah, so I am still at 301 on my coaster count tally. I know you'll be counting it, so that's a foregone conclusion because you're a coaster whore. Yeah, you're a whore. That's why.
I don't care.
I'm not counting it on mine. It's the same track, just different trains. It's not a new coaster, in my opinion.
If they would have,
maybe I'll have to wait and see too.
If they would have changed the train, or excuse me, the track in any meaningful way, if they would have added an event house, if they would have added some extra track over the lagoon, any of that would have made me really rethink that. But considering they did no changes to the track, it still has the same exact feel. Yeah, it still has the same exact feel as Mantis. Yeah. And it just to
feels
me
like Mantis sitting down.
Yeah, and it's.
I think that's the general idea, huh?
Yeah. Well,
idea.
So let's move on to the next section of our discussion here, and that is the opening day weekend and the events leading up to it. Now, I started my weekend a little bit early. I got to the first rider auction, where I met a whole bunch of new friends. Two people I'd like to send a shout out to right now are our good friends Jeff and Anna, who are from Charlotte, who made the trek up to Cedar Point for not only opening day, but also to support the LeBron James Family Foundation. And indeed we did. I was one of the first riders. I got my little media day tag, and I got my little, car. So I was on the first train, row 7, seat 4. That was my official first ride on Rougarou. I got myself a giant coin. Look at that bad boy. Now that's a coin. That's not a tweet-up coin right there. That is a real coin. Look at that.
Got a smaller one over there?
Yeah. Oh yeah. She's got a small.
That's cool.
It just looks big. Yeah, whoa, you can't even see mine anymore.
Yeah, I mean, wait, hold on. Let me get my coin out. My coin is really big when you hold it up to the screen. Oh, I can't even find it. I lost it.
Oh, you lost your coin.
It's so
Unbelievable.
Tiny.
Yeah.
It's so tiny.
Way to go, Danny.
I can't even find it. Oh, wait. Wait. Here it is. Oh, look at that. Yeah, look at that nice shiny dime right there. Look at how big that is.
Oh wow, that
that
is a coin. It is. So
That's
thank
way
you.
better than ours, Sandy.
Well,
Absolutely. It's worth actual money.
Yeah, it's worth 10 cents. I don't know about mine, to be honest. So anyway, so I started off the weekend with the auction, and they had a nice spread. They had some pretty good food. As always, they had some Rougarou cookies out there that I partook in. I love cookies. They had some LeBron James Sprite, which is actually pretty good. It's cherry and orange flavored Sprite, so it's pretty good. And they also had a variety. They had a buffet going on. It is. So they had a buffet going on, and then they called up all the kids from the foundation who were doing well in school, and then the first riders were able to go on after the kids got on. The cool thing is that for some of those kids, Rougarou was their first roller coaster ever, so hopefully it doesn't dissuade them from riding too much. Yeah. But to be honest, I'll be honest, most of the kids loved it getting off. Like they had a blast. So for that being their first roller coaster, it's pretty big, and that first loop is still impressive. Like, I don't care if you're standing or sitting, that first loop's pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. And then we moved into the season pass holder night, which was pretty well attended. Actually, I would venture to say season pass holder night might have been more attended than opening day. I don't know if that's true, but
really?
I don't know about that, but
there were a ton of people. Yeah. Now, keep in mind, not all the rides were open either on season pass holder night, so it may have just seemed more crowded because people are being forced into certain places. Now, some of the issues that we experienced, not all the rides were open. Millennium was down for most of the evening. Maverick was definitely down for most of the evening. Word on the streets was that the park did not have their state certification and the official number of tests done to open up the rides. Now, I can neither confirm nor deny that rumor. All I can tell you is that these rides were not open. And Maverick on opening day was not open until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And they were pretty much testing that all day as well. So it does.
And I didn't get to ride it opening day.
Exactly.
It rained.
And then it rained, and then it basically shut down, and so it was a bit of a mess.
It closed when I was in line. But I did get to ride it yesterday. So.
Yeah, I don't know if I told.
I got to ride Millennium Force, which is better, so it's fine.
No, it's not. Yeah, no, it's not.
Best steel coaster in the world.
She just likes to drop that in whenever she can. Millennium Force, just drop it right in there.
Of course.
So opening day, I know, Jenny, you were saying this earlier too, that opening day was kind of not a very good day for most people. The weather played a part of that in the second half of the day, and I think I don't know what to say. It's almost as if the park was unprepared. And I have a few explanations. Yeah, things like Wicked Twister not being assembled yet. Things like Maverick not opening until 2 o'clock. Millennium Force was down for most of ERT on Saturday morning as well. I don't think it opened till like 9:45 or 10 o'clock that morning.
I didn't get to ride it until after the park opened.
Yeah. So there was a lot of stuff down, a lot of people kind of upset. And to be honest with you, some of that is just your normal every opening day issues that, I went to Great America the week before, and they had issues dispatching trains and serving people food because they couldn't get the computer systems. You have new people working essentially. So you're going to have, if you're going to go opening day, you're going to have to expect some delays. I believe that some of these delays went beyond what I expected to have happened. And when you talk about the world's best amusement park, that I'm still going to vote it as that. And when you speak at that level, I think you really need to have your ducks in a row. I will, though, give the park a pass on this year and this year only. And the pass I'm going to give them is the hotel. This Hotel Breakers project was a huge project. I don't think people understand the massiveness of this project. That we had pictures, up on our website that basically showed the middle section. That the middle section of the hotel was gutted. You could see through it because it was taken down to the studs. Every other room in the hotel, in the tower, in Breakers East, those were completely redone. This was a massive undertaking, and I think everyone listening to this show should think of 2015. The new item for 2015 is Hotel Breakers. Forget Rougarou. Forget all the stuff that happened in the park. Forget all of that because it pales in comparison to what they did in Hotel Breakers. The entire lobby that you're going to be seeing some pictures here now, the entire lobby was completely redone. The entire lobby, the entranceway that was cut back and a new driveway was built. The entire rotunda, like I said before, was taken down to its studs, was completely rebuilt. The two gift shops, the Tommy Bahama and the general store gift shop were both removed and elevators were placed in there. So things I had no idea that were going to happen, were things like that, elevators being installed. They put in a new bar and a new Starbucks. Then on the outside, they took out the pool right outside of Hotel Breakers and they put in a fire pit. Next to that, something that wasn't even reported on, 6 months ago, they added this little mini splash zone for kids that have, spray features and water slides. And then they even redid the section going to the Breakers East pool that they took out the hot tub and put in a new hot tub. This hotel is brand new. I don't know the long-term stuff with the studs and how it's going to hold up, but for all intents and purposes, this was a massive undertaking that I will give the park a free pass on 2015 for not having their rides set up, for maybe not having their state certification done on some things, because this hotel was such a massive project. And that's the only reason why I'm going to give them a pass. Cause and like I said, I don't remember this ever happening before. I know, Jenny, you were talking about previous opening days. I don't remember this ever being an issue.
Hello, gentlemen. Long time no see. I've been very happy with how you all have been doing, especially you, Andy. You're showing real character, real drive in this industry. Although this episode seems a little unnecessary, I think everybody knows Rougarou is a mistake. Probably the biggest mistake Cedar Point has made since the removal of Wildcat. I don't see any point to discuss it. The coaster draft went really well, and I loved your tips for planning an amusement park trip. Very informative. But I still am not hearing that much mention of Impulse or Flying Turns. I'd even take a mention of Phoenix at this point, one of the most overrated roller coasters next to Raptor. But I know that you all are working very hard and I appreciate your effort here. I look forward to these next few episodes. I'm just waiting for your King Kong episode. I know it'll be great. but I'm warning you. I don't like making these unwelcomed appearances on your show. So keep up the good work.
Wait, who is this guy, and why does he think he can keep...
Wait, that's twice now.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? I'm just gonna let it be, and let's continue on with the show here. Seriously,
Cedar Point stuff too.
Exactly. What is with this dude? And why does he love Knobles? Only Danny Miller loves Knobles.
And it's whenever we have a third host on.
Exactly. Wait a minute.
What's up with that? I think something's up here.
Yeah. Oh well. Let's get back to the real
people.
Yeah. Let's get back to the real discussion here. So there is a lot of projects, and I just get the feeling that the focus was not the park. The focus was getting the hotel done and ready. And
the hotel has to be ready for opening day. You can't not have the hotel. I mean, they'd rather have a couple coasters not working.
Exactly. And they hit it out of the park, really. And I should also mention this. Another thing undiscussed was that they also redid parts of Breakers Express. I stayed at Breakers Express this past trip, and they added the coaster pictures above the beds. They put new TVs in there. They put in some new furniture.
Was showing me that.
And so that's work too. Granted, they're not redoing the whole room, but that takes time and effort to do that stuff in every single room. So pretty much,
it makes it look nicer too.
It does. It gives you a nice feel, like you're at like a coaster park.
Yeah.
It's not like
seeing the pictures. It just makes you really happy just to be staying there.
Absolutely. So I think the park for 2015 did a great job with the hotels. And I'm willing to go along with what they chose to do with Rougarou. Obviously, that was the plan to start with. Get something that's a quick conversion, that's going to be easy to do, because they got business elsewhere they have to deal with. And that's pretty much what I feel that they did there. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I agree, though. The hotel was a big change for them, and that took a lot of effort. And you're probably right about how that took up a lot of their time, and they couldn't really spend as much time on the park itself. But I'm not going to let them off with this one, because Rougarou really should have been a lot better with the theming and stuff. And then I think they should have been ready with a lot of the rides, and especially Maverick and Millennium Force, because they're two of the big rides there. And Top Thrill Dragster was not open for most of the time I was there. Mm-hmm. And then another issue I had, I don't know about you, but I bought the meal plan, the season-long dining plan, and it wasn't working at the preview night. It wasn't working. They said their computers were messed up. And then opening day, I went to Coasters, and their computer was messed up too still. So I don't know what's going on with that. And they added some places like Midway Market, and then they took it off and said you have to pay $8 more and stuff. Yeah. So I don't understand what's going on with that whole thing, but that really made me mad.
It was funny that you say that, because I was actually talking to one of the foods managers, and apparently Midway Market was always supposed to be an upcharge. And I don't know how much the upcharge was. That the upcharge is actually different for different plans that you have. So for the all-season dining plan, the upcharge would have been a little bit more. And then if you had the all-day dining plan, it would have been a little bit less, because you're paying more for that each day. And he says that it was always the plan. Now, supposedly, some people were getting through that line on opening day, not paying the upcharge. So, and that's what a lot of people were saying, is that a lot of people got through. So then when they started upcharging people, there was this big outcry, when in fact the people who got through actually got away with something, as opposed to the opposite being true. It was always meant to be an upcharge, is what he said. And then I also experienced a little bit of the dining plan issue. And what was happening was something with the receipts, and the receipts would not print out what your order was. so it was causing havoc.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, so, and I think that's what the computer system's problem was, is that the cash register person would literally have to write down the entire order on a piece of paper and hand it to somebody, which completely slowed down the entire process. On opening day, I stood in Pink's line for about 45 minutes.
Wow.
But then the next day on Sunday.
How much is that dining plan anyways?
It is, well, when I bought it, it was $99 for the entire chain.
Yeah.
Now
I get a meal every 4 hours is how it works, or
you get two
you
meals
get
a day.
2 meals in a day, I believe, and they have to be within 2 hours apart. I think that's what it said.
It's Cedar Point's different than everywhere else. So Cedar Point, you get 2 meals a day, and it's 90 minutes. Every other park,
90 minutes. I thought it was 2 hours, but
they might have.
It's still.
At every other park, there's a 4-hour window. There's a 4-hour in between your 2 meals. So it's a little bit different. And I believe the price has gone up to $120 now, maybe $130. So there has been a significant.
It was cheaper when I renewed my pass in October. So it must have gone up.
It's still, I feel it's still an awesome deal, especially that it's chain wide.
I agree, because I had to buy the one.
If you go to enough parks, then you would make your money back pretty quickly on that. You would think.
I went to Kings Island a bunch of times last year, and I had to buy the meal plan there too, because I just didn't want to have to buy food, and it made sense for me to buy it.
Yeah.
But now that it's everywhere, it makes a lot more sense for people like me.
And they, at Cedar Point at least, they added a whole bunch more of options on it, so you're not stuck to the usual chicken fingers, hamburger, hot dog.
Yeah.
You can actually get, you can get Panda Express, you can get Chick-fil-A, so that's kind of cool. My one complaint is, though, you only get 1 cheese on a stick, not 2 now. What?
Oh, come on.
Yes.
I didn't know about that.
Yes, 1 cheese on a stick, not 2. Yeah, that's,
Cheese on a stick, what's Andy going to do with that?
Yeah, I should be thanking them because they're saving years on my life by not having to eat 2 cheese on a stick, but
put some
I'm
cheese
very
in your
upset.
pocket and just bring a stick.
You're an idiot. You're an idiot.
Homemade cheese on a stick. And then you can buy some fresh cut fries.
So let's go to our last topic this evening. And our last topic this evening is going to be the other big change at the park. And that is the Maverick restraints. I was dreading this all day long. I was with Jeff and Anna, and also our good friend Dason from who's a huge fan of Uncut, and they know I was not excited about riding Maverick at all. I'm like, this is the death of this ride.
You voiced your displeasure quite thoroughly.
Quite a few times.
Back in, I think, February or March when we talked with Stephen Lynn.
Yes.
We talked about this.
Yes. So I'm not going to give my opinion first. So Jenny, why don't we have your opinion first?
Okay, well, I didn't get to ride it opening day. I actually just rode it yesterday a couple times, and honestly, it really didn't make much of a difference to the ride. Maybe a little bit better because it was a little bit more comfortable, but other than that, it really wasn't a big change for me. So, what did you think, Andy?
Before we get to me, did you have any issues with the old restraints?
Well, I just didn't think they were very comfortable when riding, which they weren't padded like these ones are, and it made the ride experience kind of hurt a little bit, I guess.
Okay. So this is my take on it. Despite what I had said previously, I don't think it ruined the ride.
But it didn't make it any better, is what I'm gathering from the way you said that. It doesn't make it any better either.
I think it's a break even, to be honest with you. I had zero issue riding Maverick. I've been riding Maverick since 2007. I know how to ride Maverick at this point. It's you simply hold your hands up here, you counter pull against the horseshoe, and then
you put your arms up and you let it beat the hell out of you.
Or you could do that. You could do that if you want to have bruises for the rest of the day. The The only other part that was real painful was, coming out of the launch tunnel and then going up onto that first break, that turn up.
Yeah.
That was also a neck herder area. I will say that now Maverick allows you to have a hands up ride for the entire ride. There's no question. It does allow that. For the most part, the old restraints gave you more room to get your airtime. This one, it doesn't push you down, but it does. It's a lot closer to your shoulders. So, like, if the other one was a little bit up here, this one's maybe a half an inch lower. So you are going to get a little bit less. You're going to get less extension off your seat, which I think those airtime hills were really awesome. They're still pretty good. I took a few rides on it. I had morning rides. I had night rides. We had a lot going on. So I had quite a few rides on Maverick. And for the most part, I think it's break even. I don't think it significantly increases the ride's enjoyability. I don't think it significantly decreases it. I'm not a fan of change usually. And here I would kind of lean towards I'd rather just have the old restraints back. And there's another reason for that too that I'm going to get to in a second. But I do want to say all those people that were complaining about these restraints, they had better now rank Maverick higher. Because if you're not going to rank Maverick higher, then why were you complaining about it before? If you're still going to rank it lower, and if you're complaining about the restraints. So if I better see Maverick in the top 5 of the golden tickets this year. I don't know. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, that was the big thing that we had talked
Maverick,
about.
So I was never a fan of Maverick in the first place, and it wasn't because of the restraints. I think that the airtime hills hurt my thighs, and that I just don't like that, and it hurts. And it wasn't really the restraints.
No, she didn't like Sky Rush either. So.
It's not moving up on my list. And neither is Sky Rush.
Oh my god.
No.
Oh my god, you're killing me.
And I think, Andy, I think this is where you were going with this. So many people for years said, I like Millennium Force better than Maverick because the restraints hurt my head too much. Those people have no excuse to not rank Maverick higher.
None. Zero.
I mean, that's
Zero
not why
excuse.
I like Maverick, so it's not going up on my list.
But that's okay. That's okay. It's the people who always complained about the headbanging that have no reason to complain now. We've taken away their source of complaining.
Move it up your list. I want to see it on the golden tickets top 5 this year. That's what I want to see.
No.
And maybe it won't lose to Manta this year in the bracket challenge.
Don't even start.
And Millennium Force is going to win.
I'm starting. Oh man, I was gonna ask a question. Yeah, Danny Screwdriver. That's right. I was gonna lost my train of thought now. I was gonna ask. Did you hear a whole lot of it? This wasn't what I was gonna ask, but did you hear other coaster people saying that they liked it or didn't like it more? Was it most people had the same break-even feeling? You think?
If I was to guess, I would say most people, and this is mostly from what I read on Twitter, and a lot of it was what the park was retweeting. So granted, take it from the source.
It's going to be good then.
Yeah, people were saying that it was significantly better. People are also saying that Rougarou is significantly better. So I'm not sure how to gauge those things at this point.
Yeah.
I think Coaster Mania is going to be the time when a lot of people are going to go out and ride that ride, and I think that's going to be the time that we really see how people feel about it. Now, my main concern is not even the ride or how the restraints hurt. It's the actual composition of the restraints, and they're made of a soft material, and it's like nylon. And when you pull it over your head, it touches. It's like your head's popping out through it.
That's how I-305 is, and you didn't get to ride I-305 because it was broken when you were there, but that's exactly how those are.
Now,
It's
my concern is this. In the middle of the summer,
tape.
in the middle of the summer,
I know what he's gonna say.
People tend to get a little sweaty and tend to get a little more disgusting. And now that's coming over my head. And I swear to you, I rode the ride at night on opening night, and I swear to you, my harness already smelled like puke. And even if it didn't, even if it was in my head that it smelled like puke, chances are at some point someone's going to puke on this restraint. And at that point, how are they going to clean this thing? Because it's fabric and it seeps into it.
Yeah.
And it's just gross. And I'm sorry. I'm not like a germaphobe, but if I smell puke, I want to puke.
Yeah, that's how I am. So I know how you feel.
It's just that right there makes me not want to ride it as much as I used to. Like, I would go on Maverick, and if the opportunity presented itself, I would sit there and marathon it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rides in a row, and get out of line and go back in. But now I'm not super hot on that idea of rewriting it that many times. And I'm thinking to myself, what could they have done better? And you know what came to my mind is, why not, because inside the fabric there is a metal piece in there. It's thin metal that's holding it there. Why couldn't they put like lifeguard foam around it or something that you could hose down, and something that's not going to seep in? Obviously, you can't do a hard restraint because that was the problem to begin with. But something like a lifeguard foam, I almost think would be soft enough. And you can't say it's too soft; it would break, because you have fabric on it right now. What's softer than fabric? Just some other material. And I know you said I-305 does the hockey tape. Is it like electrical tape, or is it hockey tape?
No, well, it basically looks like it looks very similar to what was on Maverick. It looks like it's like a nylon type of padding, like the padding's on the inside, and then it's coated in like a nylon wrap, and then it almost looks like they just took, I say hockey tape because that's what I'm used to, but it looks like it was just like black medical tape just wrapped around the whole thing is what it looks like. And I don't know, maybe we can find a picture of it to put.
No, I've seen it.
I don't know off the top of my head.
I've seen that, and Maverick doesn't
find it now.
Maverick doesn't have that tape aspect to it. It's just this vest thing that's made of nylon. And to me, it just seems gross. It seems like there's got to be a better way than that. I don't know. Maybe I'm overreacting to it. Maybe it's
the I-305 ones originally were just the padding.
Yesterday, so
the what? Jenny?
It didn't smell bad when I wrote it.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's just me and I'm overthinking things, because sometimes I can smell things when I think they're going to smell like that. And I'll be honest, the other thing is, the people riding in front of me was like this bachelor party, and I'm sure they've been drinking all day. Really nice group of guys. Like, I'm not going to say anything bad about them, but sometimes at a bachelor party, things get a little out of control. People start throwing up. So maybe it was just he threw up on his shirt earlier in the day, and he just put it down and just smelled like that because he wrote it. I don't know. I don't want to know, to be honest with you, at this point, because it's grossing me out sitting here. I want to go take a shower right now, just sitting here thinking about it. So I'm not super enthused.
I'm looking for pictures, and it's like I-305. There's pictures of it from like opening day where it's like nice and pristine, and then you see pictures that are more recent, and it's like some of them have tape wrapped around it. But there's one here from 2010, back before they made the conversion, where it was still the original hard shoulder harnesses like Maverick has had for years. There's a picture of a train coming back, and the guy in the front seat is like this. He's like, and he's like holding his jaw. And it's really, really funny. And then the guy 3 rows behind him is like this. He's like, I think that's like perfect for how some people have felt about these restraints and when they were on I-305 for a very short time. So it sounds to me like Rougarou and Maverick were the things that all the coaster people were most excited about, and it seems like it's kind of a break even on both, and it's really going to be a personal hit or a personal miss. But generally speaking, I think it's going to kind of split the vote in both. Some people are really going to enjoy both. Some people are going to really not like both. Some people are going to be down the middle, and others might like one but not like the other.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest with you, of what I said before, I think people need to forget both of those and look at Hotel Breakers as the 2015 edition, and not really focus on the in-park stuff, because it was the hotel. The hotel was the massive expenditure. The hotel was your, maybe one of the biggest expenditures that the park's ever undertaken. Like you look at like a single year edition. This might have been it. I don't know. The tower was pretty expensive. Breakers East was pretty expensive, but this was a huge project too. And I just think that people need to look at Hotel Breakers as the 2015 edition and treat everything else as just icing on the cake. Like, they didn't have to give us anything. They didn't have to give us Rougarou, but they did, and they made something out of it, and they made a media day out of it, and they got some extra advertisement out of it. So I think that's a win for the park, because it looks there's a commitment there to still do stuff in park, even though when their big projects and expenditures are out of the park. So, that's what I think people really have to look at here is the hotel.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Any final thoughts?
I didn't go in the hotel, but I agree. So.
You need to.
I saw pictures of it from some of my friends that went in the hotel, but I didn't get to go in myself. I'm going to have to do that at some point this season.
I think maybe when I go for Coaster Mania, maybe I'll spend one night at Breakers. Maybe not two, but one night.
I'm going to spend time at Breakers, like
kind of check it out.
Usually once or twice during the season is when I go to Breakers. I try to find the cheapest option, but then, when my whole family goes, we like to be right in the action, to cut down on the walking. So, especially during Halloween weekends too. During Halloween weekends, I like to stay on the peninsula because you can avoid all of the traffic out of the park, which can be just as harrowing and frustrating as anything that happens to you anywhere in the world. So I think at this point, if there's any final thoughts on the weekend, and then we can wrap it up. Jenny, we'll start with you. Any final thoughts?
Well, I just wasn't very impressed with the whole weekend there, but I will give them the whole Hotel Breakers thing. They did a good job with that. I saw pictures, and I saw the hotel from riding Corkscrew. I looked at the hotel, and it looked really nice on the outside.
Yeah.
And Rougarou's okay, but it didn't move up on my list or anything. I rode it 10 times yesterday, and I rode in different seats and stuff to try it out. But
give it a good solid chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Maverick, I rode it twice yesterday, and the restraints made it a little bit better, but really didn't matter that much to me because I still don't like that airtime and hurting my thighs.
She don't know
roller coasters. I did rip the tweet up.
Yeah, well.
Okay, yeah, she won her coin in the tweet.
Yeah, she got her coin.
I guess. Yeah, I guess for me, it's hard for me to speak to this, obviously, since I wasn't out there for opening weekend. I was actually catching up from the action while I was at Dorney Park and Knoebels this past weekend with our theme park enthusiast group that we started here at school. We took a group trip down to Dorney on Friday night, and then we spent the day at Knoebels. So we got to ride Impulse, so I did actually get a new credit over the weekend, just at a different park. But but that's another story. So like I said, I do hope to get out to Cedar Point for Coaster Mania again this year, and if not, hopefully shortly after then. I got my big trip coming up with Andy here in a few weeks that we'll surely be covering. But I'm looking forward to it, and I'm cautiously optimistic, I think, just because I'd really like to come out of it having liked these two improvements, but it seems to me like, okay, now I know that I shouldn't get my expectations too high because it just sounds like maybe they're just like a base hit, certainly not a home run. Maybe it's a base hit, maybe it's an infield single in some cases, but I'm excited to at least find out for myself and judge for myself how it's going to be, and then maybe we'll revisit the discussion, but until then, I have you guys to rely on. So that's really all I have for tonight is, that's all I can really weigh in on as far as this goes for now, I guess.
Well, and the one last thing I want to say is, thank you to all the people out there that, came and said hello, all the Uncut listeners.
Oh, yeah.
Just an overwhelming response. I already mentioned a few of them. I mentioned, Jeff and Anna from Charlotte, Dason from down in Tampa Bay. But also we had, Robert Dole. He came and we hung out in the morning together. A funny story, we were waiting in a rain delay for Rougarou, and I'm just standing there talking to Dason, who I was hanging out with at that point, and this kid behind me named Jackson, he's like, hey, are you from that YouTube show Uncut? I'm like, yes, I am, and we struck up a conversation, and then it was funny, we kept running into each other for the rest of the night, so I ran into him on Frontier Trail, and he had a bag of caramel corn from the new Sweet Spot. And he said, here, try this out. I'm like, okay, why not? I took a few pieces. I tried it out. I thanked him. But you know what? So, he was also really awesome to talk to. And then, of course, just some other people I ran into, like Paul and Alex and Joey. And it just seemed everywhere I turned. Me. I saw you. I saw Brad.
Brad. My coaster twin.
Exactly. It's just so many people, were coming up to me. Like, people thought like I was like a real celebrity there. And I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah, their response has been much better than you and I could have ever anticipated. So it's funny. We're actually getting into going to the parks now that we've been doing this show through the entire off season and haven't really gone to the parks except for, I went to IAPA and did parks down there.
Yeah.
But, it's going to be really interesting to go to the parks and actually get to meet some people. And I know you already have.
Oh.
I'm sure Coaster Mania and Hollywood Nights, we're going to get to meet a lot of people. We already know of a bunch of people that are looking forward to riding some rides with us there. So, it'll be fun. We'll have a lot of fun this summer.
And I made sure. So if you see us in the park, come up and say hi. Don't be shy. We love to talk to people. We love to talk to listeners. But be prepared. I do ask you one question, and the question is, who do you like better, me or Danny? And the answer better be me.
And if I ask you the question, the answer better be me. You can lie. You can lie to either one of us. Just don't lie to both of us at the same time.
Yeah. So far, the overwhelming response is me, though, Danny. So I don't know what you're talking about. Everyone seems to love me. They don't even know who you are. They're like, who's that other guy with you?
I like you more than I like myself, so...
Oh, well, as always, thank you for joining us here on COASTER-net Uncut.
Putting up with our nonsense.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Jenny for being with us here this evening.
Thanks for having me on the show. I had a good time talking to you guys about coasters, and I hope to see you at parks this summer.
Oh, absolutely. We will definitely be at some parks this summer. I am, of course, Andrew Barchak from Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm Danny Miller from Rochester, New York.
And
I'm Jenny Fiedler from Akron, Ohio.
And as always, right on, Ride Warriors.
See you next time.
So thanks again for having me on the show. I look forward to our next encounter, and I hope, for your sake, that it's under much better circumstances.